Are your guitar solos sounding flat and lifeless? You're nailing the notes, but they just don't sing? Well, the secret to soulful, captivating lead guitar is not just the notes you play, but it's a lot about how you play them. The secret sauce that separates players of similar technical abilities, and this is at every skill level, it's phrasing. Phrasing is the nuances we put on the notes we play to make them really come alive, to make it sound like we're singing through our guitar. In this video, I'm going to reveal essential phrasing power moves and also how to practice and apply them. Your sound will go from this to this. So what exactly are we going to learn today? I'm going to give you ideas on how to better use the big three elements in phrasing on guitar. We're talking slides, bends, and the guitarist's fingerprint vibrato. We'll also compare two different ways of moving around the fretboard and how that can affect your phrasing. And lastly, I'll show you how to spice up your licks and phrases by combining all of these elements. Let's get started with slides, which I think is the fastest and easiest phrasing articulation to learn, but they make your licks sound incredible. And here's the process we're going to be using today. We're going to be playing over a chord progression that goes from A minor to G to F. We're going to come up with a phrase to play over that progression. At first, we'll play it totally plain or straight. And then we're going to add in our phrasing elements to breathe life into it and make it sound amazing. Our backing track today is a slow 72 beats a minute, and we're going to be playing a progression that has a split measure of A minor to G, and then a full measure of F. Here's the phrase we're going to be working with. Over A minor, we're going to play C, E, D, and C. Over G, we're only going to play two notes, B and G. And then over F, we're going to play F, C, A, G, F, and then C an octave above. Here it is over the backing track with some rhythm but zero phrasing. Those notes sound okay. There's lots of chord tones, so it sounds very melodic. But we're going to breathe life into it by first adding some slides, and we're going to be using a technique that we call grace note slides. So I'm sure you already know what a slide is. We fret a note, play it, and keeping the pressure on the string, we're going to slide to a target note. Like here, I'm playing E, but sliding to G. Now I'm going to play G and slide to C. Now I'm going to play C and slide into E again. And that's one kind of a slide technique called a glissando. And it happens kind of slowly but smoothly over a longer interval. And it's a nice sounding technique. But the type of slide that we're going to concentrate on is called a grace note slide. Grace notes are a decorative embellishment, not a core part of the melody. They're played extremely fast, almost instantaneously, and they take up virtually no rhythmic value from the beat. So it's more of an effect or an attack that you hear going into the note. We execute grace note slides from maybe a couple of frets above or below our target note. For E at the 5th fret of the B string, for example, I might slide into it from the D below or the G above. Same with the G note or the C note. But they happen so quickly that there's maybe a hint of our starting pitch, but what the ear really catches is the attack and the movement, and it adds a lot of expression to the actual notes we play. There's just an E note. There's an E note with a grace note slide. Here's G. If we go to our melody that we made up, remember we play C, E, D, and C over the C chord. So let's do a downward slide into C, upward slide into E, a downward slide into D, and then pull off to the C. Sounds pretty nice. Here it is without the slides. Boring with the slides. Expressive. Over G, we're going to play B and G, a downward slide into B, and an upward slide into G. And then over F, we're going to play F, C, A, G, F, and C. We're going to do a downward slide into the F and play C, slide up into A, down into G, pull off to F, and then slide up into the C. Here's our entire phrase with the slides added. Great players that use this kind of phrasing constantly are old school guys like Jeff Beck or Steve Lukather, shredders like Steve Vai or Andy Timmons, or a blues rocker like the Welsh guitarist Chris Buck, who is an exceptionally expressive guitar player. Here's a great way to practice grace note slides. You can use any scale, but we're going to start with A minor pentatonic. For instance, on the B string, we do a downward slide into C, upward into D, downward into E, upward into G, downward into A, upward into C, downward into D, and upward into E. You just want to get used to the idea of sliding into a target note and being accurate. And this exercise really helps. Slides, it's a great technique and it adds so much to your sound. Okay, now let's take things up a notch and add some vibrato to our grace note slides. Before we do that though, let me ask a favor of you. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Hit that hype button and leave me a comment down below. Thanks. Vibrato is rightly called the guitar's fingerprint because everybody's is a little bit different. Now, while your vibrato is going to be unique to you, there are some tips and suggestions that I can give you to get your vibrato sounding as awesome as possible. We hear the term all the time, but what exactly is vibrato? It's an oscillation in pitch around a core tone. We're going to use this C at the 13th fret of the B string. Now, there are different ways to execute vibrato on guitar, but most of the time on electric guitar, playing popular forms of music like rock or blues, we're going to get vibrato by repeating what is basically a small bend over and over. And a couple of really important things to focus on. We want to make sure the pulses of your vibrato are uniform and in tune with one another. So each pulse should sound the same. We want to focus on the speed of the vibrato. We're playing a sparse melody over a slow backing track, so we wouldn't want a fast bumblebee sounding vibrato. And we can practice the timing of the pulses. So for instance, here would be eighth notes. If our count is 1, 2, 3, 4, the pulse of our vibrato would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... We could practice eighth note triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Or we could do 16th notes. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... Personally, I'd naturally use that 16th note pulse over a slow track like this, but it's all personal preference. And we're going to start off by adding some vibrato to each note that we hold out. And over C, it would be the second note we play, which is E. Here's our phrase over the C chord with just slides. Here it is with slides and vibrato. To me, that sounds much better. Over the G chord, remember we're just playing two notes, B and G. And so we're gonna really let that G note sustain. And here's an awesome sounding technique used by singers with really great control of their vibrato. We're gonna delay starting the vibrato. We're gonna let the note ring out momentarily and then bring the vibrato in. It sounds amazing and super intentional, and it just screams control. Over the F chord, I'd put vibrato in two places. I'd do an immediate vibrato on the A note, which we only hold briefly, and then delayed vibrato on the C, which we hold a little longer. Here's that whole passage played with slides and now vibrato over the backing track. Have a listen. Now here's a great way to practice your vibrato. Let's take 5 notes from the C major scale. We're going to play C, D, E, F, and G. Now what we're going to do is we're going to play each note for 2 beats. And the first time through, we're going to do 8th note pulses. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Next time through, we'll do 8th note triplet pulses. So 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And the third time through, we're going to do 16th note pulses. So 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... Once you start getting the hang out of it, try the different vibrato speeds on songs that you like to solo over. You'll start to get a feel for what's authentically you. And that's a big part of developing your own identity as a player. Now I feel like we're really getting somewhere, and it's time to hit the last of the big 3 phrasing ornaments, bending. Combined with slides and vibrato, bending is like the icing on the cake. And when I think of players that epitomize power and soul like David Gilmour or Gary Moore, a big part of what I think of is the way that they execute bends. I'm going to start by showing you 2 related ways to combine slides, vibrato, and bends. And if you get down just these 2 moves, it's going to open up a whole new dimension in your playing. We're going to again use the C major scale, but this time we're going to be on the G string, and we're going to use 3 note groupings. And the first way we're going to do it is this. So we're going to slide into D at the 7th fret and bend it up to E. Release the bend. Rebend it and release it again. And then pull off to C at the 5th fret and give it some healthy vibrato. Up to speed sounds like this. And we can work our way all the way through the scale up this string. Now the second variation is, instead of rebending that D note after we release the bend, we're going to make a quick slide up to E and back and then pull off the C and give it vibrato. That is one of my absolute favorite phrasing techniques, and I think it sounds so expressive. Check out the Canadian shredder Nick Johnston, or again the Welsh blues rocker Chris Buck, to hear 2 players use these techniques extremely well. Let's go back to that example phrase and apply these techniques. Over the C chord, we could use it like this. Over G with just 2 notes, there's really no space for it, but we could bend up into that G and it sounds really expressive. over our F lick, we can definitely fit it in. And I'd finish things off by bending up into that C note instead of sliding. Notice I put vibrato on a couple of bent notes that came at the end of a phrase. It's something to take note of, although we don't really have time to get into that today. Here's that entire phrase over the backing track, incorporating all of the articulations or ornaments. Check it out. Now here's a really important thing to think about when you're developing your phrasing, and it's all about how you're going to navigate the fretboard. So much of how we're taught in practice involves moving vertically across the fretboard. And that's great when we're playing arpeggios or trying to rip some fast scale patterns. But it's not really optimum for getting all your phrasing in. If you really want to max out your phrasing, you want to think about moving up and down the neck horizontally. That's the best way to really have the space you need to incorporate all those slides and bends. And sometimes we might want to stay on a fatter string to get a better sounding vibrato than moving across the fretboard to a skinnier string that might sound weak or thin. For instance, if I wanted to be really efficient and stay in one position, I could play our entire phrase over the A minor and G chords on the B and strings up at the 17th position. But if I really want to exaggerate the phrasing, I'd play that entire lick on just the B string. There's so much more room to slide around, and especially to slide up into that bend from F to G that ends the phrase. Now that's good phrasing. I'm going to play our entire phrase over the backing track a couple of times, incorporating all the ideas that we've talked about today, and I'm going to try to crush the phrasing. Here we go. So that's the lowdown on phrasing. Now there's enough in this video to keep you busy, and if you get busy, you'll make a big difference in the professionalism and the power of your sound almost immediately. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please come back next week. I'll have another video for you then to keep your guitar playing moving onward and upward. Until then, happy guitaring.